Good morning. I had intended to do this live, and I apologize that it's not going to be. Plans changed today. But welcome to the first in a series of education series. We're going to be doing quite a few more. This is Vegan Food Storage, and the first in the education series is How Much Do I Store? So there are a lot of lists out there. And I'm going to tell you straight up that no list is going to be the same for your family. My family's needs are going to be different than your family's needs, or your person's needs, or your community's needs. So a list is a good jumping off point, but you really have to take the time to figure out what's going to work for you and your family. And that is especially true for vegans and vegan food storage. Most of the plans that are out there, or the lists that are out there, are vegetarian based at best. They include dairy, and if you're not a sugar person or don't use sugars, they're going to include a lot of sugars. They won't usually include meat just because they don't, but it is something to be aware of. And just for the record, so we distribute Thrive Life products. You can buy them on veganthrive.com. I really like Thrive Life's quality. Emergency Essentials has really good quality also. Honestly, those, not because we affiliate with Thrive Life, but those are the two companies that I would, especially if you're vegan, that I would stick with. There are some things that rice is rice, beans are beans, and it doesn't matter where you buy them. But when it comes to freeze-dried food, those are the two companies that I would stick with, that I would really encourage you to stick with. So with vegan food storage especially, there are things that you need to pay attention to. So we're going to talk about just what the minimums, the recommended minimums are. And if you've never done food storage before, you're probably going to freak out a little bit about some of the quantities that people talk about. And we're going to talk about why those quantities are kind of blown out of the water, both for vegans and non-vegans. So the first, so there are categories. And those categories include grains and grains, legumes, fats and oils, milk and dairy, which of course you're not really going to use as a vegan, but we're going to talk about dairy and nut milk, not today, but later. Sugars, cooking essentials, fruits, vegetables, and of course water. Now, the recommended amount of grains for one person is 300 pounds for a year. We're talking about a year now. So if you're going to do it for a week or something, that'll be different. But for a year is going to be about 300 pounds. For legumes, about 60. For fats and oils, about 25 pounds. For milk and dairy, about 75 pounds. For sugars, about 60. For cooking essentials like baking powder, baking soda, those kinds of things, you're talking about a pound, really about a pound of each of those kind of things. For water, about 14 gallons per person for a 2-week supply, and that's really just drinking water. So we'll talk about that at another time. Fruits, about 185 pounds, and vegetables about 185 pounds. Now, if you're vegan, you can, and you are cooking mostly fruits and vegetables, not pasta based, you can already tell those numbers are way off. So we're going to talk about that just for a second. So I know you can't tell from my face, but I'm Asian, and we are a rice family. If you go to a lot of food storage websites, they'll talk about storing wheat. That's really great, but that's really based on, a 200-year-old community, the LDS community, where wheat was a staple, and people ate wheat, and they baked their own bread, and they ground their own bread, and all that kind of stuff. I'm willing to bet that most of you don't have a wheat grinder, and I'm willing to bet that most of you don't bake your own bread. And I'm willing to bet that most of you would not know what to do with wheat if it fell on your lap. So we are fortunately Asian, and a lot of you, and so rice is our mainstay staple. And I'm willing to bet a lot of you know how to cook rice. So you might want to think about adjusting those things to what you and your family need. Here's the other thing. The recommended minimum is 300 pounds per person. So if you're a family of 5 like we are, you're looking at 1,500 pounds, and that will freak you out. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's way too much. I guess you can never have too much food, but you can have too much of one thing. Seriously. So in our family, a pound of rice will cook enough for one meal. A pound of rice equals 3 cups, just in case you're OCD like I am when it comes to math. So a pound of rice is 3 cups of rice. A number 10 can, and we'll get into that just real quick, is about 12 to 18 cups, depending on what it is that you're storing. So when you start breaking it down like that, how much food to store becomes a little bit easier. And for those of you who still don't know what I'm talking about, we're going to talk a little bit about measurements. This is a 1 pound bag of rice. So if you were in a 1 pound bag of rice, will feed my entire family for a single meal. So if I was looking to store a year's supply of just one meal a day, I would need 365 pounds. I would need 365 bags. Or I would need the average can of, number 10 can of rice is about 6 pounds. We're going to do easy math and call it 5 pounds. So I would need 20 cans for a year's supply of rice for one meal a day. And that's really kind of what you want to start thinking of. You want to stop thinking in terms of pounds, and you want to start thinking in terms of, in my opinion, of meals. But you don't have to. It's your food storage, and it's honestly putting some food by is better than putting no food by. So that's a pound of rice. I know you're going to be shocked. This is a pound of pasta. Your grains don't have to be just rice or wheat or oatmeal or something like that. It can actually be a pound of pasta. That's still a grain, and it's already cooked, and you already know what to do with it. So again, how many boxes of pasta would you need? You'd probably want to store it in something different for, a year's worth. But, how many pounds of, pasta do you need? If you're going to have pasta every single day, you'd need 365 boxes. That's not too hard to, come by. You go to the grocery store, you grab a couple extra boxes off the shelf, and there you go. You can start working on stuff. Well, let's talk about legumes for a second, which people, beans and legumes, which people are just like freaked out. They have to store like these, dry, bags of beans all the time. Well, you can, and they'll last longer, sure. But I know you're going to be shocked. This is a pound of beans. I actually kind of wonder that. It's a 15.5 ounce can, and I actually know I have not weighed the actual beans when they come out of the can. I should, though. But this is, a pound of beans, cup and a half, by the way. So how many pounds of beans, would you need? Or, lentils. And like you said, if you're, vegan, your lentil, quotient may be up way higher than the average, Omni's food storage. So just so you know what sizes we're talking about, for those of you who are not familiar with the nomenclature, and there aren't many places that you can buy some of these, this is when we say number 10 can of something, this is what we're talking about. A large can of something. If you go to the grocery store, you can usually see in their bulk food section large number 10 cans of like chocolate pudding, large number 10 cans of, I don't know, canned corn, canned potatoes. I don't know. I haven't looked there ever. So, but this is a number 10 can. By comparison, this is a pantry can. So it's significantly smaller. A number 10 can of fruits and vegetables will hold about 12 cups. If it's Thrive Life, I think EE, Emergency Essentials, I call it EE, is about the same. This is a pantry size can. It'll hold about 3 or 4 cups, usually about 4. So about half that amount, maybe, or a third of that amount, sorry. So it's just something to think about as far as, your space and whatever. So 365 pounds minimum for a family of 5 for a year of grains. 60 pounds of legumes, which is lentils, dry beans, split peas, soybeans, those kinds, basically of kind of beans. I think that's low for vegans. I do. I would probably a cup of dried beans for our family is about a meal. It is. It's about a meal. Except for lentils. Lentils is about, a whole pound, really. So for our family, if I was going to do a year's supply of beans, I'd probably kick that up to probably about 90 pounds. I really would. And if it's lentils, I'd probably cook it up to at least 90 pounds, itself. Lentils is that really great, protein replacer. You get really high, protein amounts with lentils. So I'd err on the side of caution with lentils, or excess with lentils. Fruits and vegetables are obviously going to be significantly higher in a vegan food storage program. 180 pounds per person, 185 pounds per person of fruits, and 185 pounds per person for vegetables. It's probably the only thing that's probably accurate for a per person standpoint, which means you're going to need to do that times how many people do you have in your family. For example, I actually went and calculated out all the recipes that I would have, that I would use corn with, freeze-dried corn, and found out that I would need, if I was making those meals every day, I would need, which is high, I wouldn't make that meal every single day, but if I was making that meal every single day, I would need 9 cases of number 10 can, and a case is 6 number 10 cans, by the way. So I would need 54 cans just of corn. So you might want to think about the kinds of food that you're making. Freeze-dried, the really great thing about freeze-dried food, it is the same the same volume as traditional fruits and vegetables. So if you have 2 stalks of celery and you cut those up, of traditional celery, and by that I mean stuff you get out of the grocery store, that's what I mean by traditional, and you use a half a cup or 3/4 of a cup of 2 stalks of celery is about 3/4 of a cup of freeze-dried. So you don't lose, that's a really nice thing about freeze-dried food, is you're not going to lose measurement and volume like you do with dehydrated. We'll talk about the difference between freeze-dried and dehydrated later, not today. But for vegans especially, and non-vegans too. I mean, honestly, all you who just store, I'm talking now to the people who might be watching this who aren't vegan, who store wheat, rice, oil, sugar, whatever, the basics, Mormon stuff from a long time ago, and think that you're done with your food storage, don't come to my house. Because while you're eating that yucky white food, in color, not in race, I and my family are going to have wonderful, luscious, yummy fruits and vegetables, along with rice and legumes, because we've been eating that way all the time, and you all are going to have a big adjustment to make. But I'm just giving you a hard time. But seriously, so that's really the kind of food that you're going to be storing. Heavier on, just like you are now, just vegans, just like you are now, heavier on fruits and vegetables, and with grains and pasta, supplementing, and not a lot of difference. So really just look at how much, the great thing about freeze-dried food is that you're not going to have any waste. So you don't have to worry about, buying things and having it go bad. It'll sit on the shelf for 25 years if you don't open it. It'll, depending on where you live, it'll sit on a shelf for about 6 months to a year depending on your humidity levels. I live in East Texas. The humidity is pretty high here, and I have things that are open for 6 months and don't go bad. So, and by that I mean softened and stuck together. I don't mean like molding. So you could actually, use them. It just becomes a little harder to get them out of the can. So that's really what how much food you're going to store and what you're going to eat for the time being. We've already been here for 15 minutes, and I try to keep each video down about 15 minutes. So anyhow, I'm going to encourage you to put food by. I'll get a food calculator up on the website probably in the next day or so. We're not doing this video live because my day changed, sadly.